Hello, welcome. I'm going to walk you through installing the OpenFlame platform version 1.3. In version 1.3, we have substantially automated the install process so that it'll download pretty much everything you need, um, get it installed and configured, and launch the platform in two pretty simple steps. So I'm going to start now by connecting to a completely clean server running CentOS version 5.7. I'm going to launch my terminal program. SSH into my box. And as you can see, I'm in as the root user. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare a directory to house OpenFlame, and then I'm gonna go ahead and download the install package from firejack.net. So we're all done. I'm gonna move the install package into my directory. I'm gonna cd into OpenFlame, and I'm just gonna go ahead and unzip OpenFlame zip. And then I'm going to go ahead and move the openflame.zip back out so that I can take a look at the install directory. So what's in here is basically everything OpenFlame needs to install. All we're going to do is run the setup.sh program, which is going to install OpenFlame into the opt OpenFlame directory by default, and it's going to go ahead and download all the requisite packages such as MySQL, which it does first. It's a good note to, if you're going to use the automated installer, probably best to just remove MySQL to begin with so that OpenFlame can be guaranteed to work during this part. It's going to ask us for the MySQL root password. We're going to set one. I'm going to just set it to root for now. And now it's downloading Memcached, and Memcached serves as a distributed cache. And it also serves as a notification system for when things change in the OpenFlame console user interface. OpenFlame is able to notify Memcached so that settings get re-reflected immediately. This is particularly important for dealing with security. When we reset user privileges and user permissions, if Memcached is running, OpenFlame is able to make those changes immediately to user sessions so that their permissions are changed immediately. It's also very helpful when OpenFlame is running in a load balanced configuration. Those settings get shared across multiple servers automatically. Depending on the speed of your internet connection, some of this may take some time to download. But generally, end to end, the entire installation process takes about 15 minutes. So the next step is OpenFlame's going to go ahead and grab the latest JDK, and then it's going to ask you to hit enter so it can complete the installation. This just guarantees that the JDK that is compatible or most compatible with OpenFlame gets installed for you. Then it's going to go ahead and grab Apache Maven and set that up. And then it's going to grab Tomcat and set that up. And at this point, everything is ready to go. OpenFlame's been registered as a service. Really, it's just Tomcat registers as a service. OpenFlame is a WAR file that lives inside of Tomcat, and most of the core services run from there. So now we're at step 2, which is really just the initial startup of OpenFlame. And on the first startup, OpenFlame will create its database. It will add all the metadata that it needs and to run the platform, and it'll initialize its openflame.properties file, which you'll find in opt openflame base once we're finished here. So I'm going to go ahead and start this, and then what I'm going to do is take a look at the Catalina out log, so we can, and then I'll hit Shift F, and it's going to just keep showing me the end of the log. So the first thing OpenFlame's going to do is it's going to just deploy all of its services. So you can see it kind of publishing services and getting ready to load, and now it's blasting in its database and creating the data tables it needs, and now it's going to sit for a few minutes and just put in a whole bunch of metadata that OpenFlame needs to run. And this includes users, this includes the default roles, it includes all of the metadata for running the services, permissions. You can see OpenFlame is going to use Hibernate quite extensively, and most of this metadata is packaged into an OpenFlame XML file that is the metadata declaration container. And the entire OpenFlame registry database is exportable and importable via that XML, that package XML file that we define. So one of the ways that we ensure that OpenFlame and all of its features work is we actually build OpenFlame and its console and services on the OpenFlame platform. And so OpenFlame is running on itself. So anything that you see in the console that's being done, you know can be done with OpenFlame, because OpenFlame uses itself to drive a lot of those things. And so, and the OpenFlame console and core services are actually pretty extensive. They're pretty large, and they do quite a bit. So it sort of does go to showcase that the platform is pretty capable. The other thing that this is doing is it is actually installing OpenFlame's built-in documentation. The documentation engine makes sure that actually quite a bit of documentation entries get created for every entity, every package, every action, every pretty much every asset gets an editable documentation page generated for it that's accessible both through the OpenFlame search features and through the OpenFlame documentation browser, which will demonstrate as soon as all of this comes up. You'll see some of this error stack traces are turned on messages. Those are just info messages letting you know that if there's some sort of installation problem, OpenFlame will report the full error message. It's not an error in of itself. This phase of the process is actually reaching out and downloading Maven plugins that are required for OpenFlame to work properly, mostly for building applications. Again, depending on the speed of your internet connection and the speed of your mirror, this process could take 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most. But once it's completed, OpenFlame will report that the server started up successfully. Okay, so we can see that the server started up. So now I can open up Firefox and grab a new window, and I should be able to jump right into the OpenFlame console on our server and log in. Even before I log in, I can push the Getting Started button and it'll hop me into the read-only version of the OpenFlame documentation. I can kind of click on OpenFlame here. It'll describe what OpenFlame is all about, and I can browse through a lot of the available services in OpenFlame and how to leverage them right from this documentation. And then I can also log in. The default password is 6 ones for the admin user, and it'll drop me onto the domain manager page, and I'm off to the races. So welcome to OpenFlame 1.3. More videos to come.